Chapter 23. The Shattering. Kai froze. His breath seized in his throat as Aira collapsed, blood spilling fast across her side. She hit the ground, and her hand went to the wound. The blood came through her fingers anyway, pooling and threading down the creases of her armor. The cold reached Kai's gut, blooming there and spreading outward until his arms felt like they were very distant extensions of some other person's body. The ringing in his ears swallowed the chamber whole. Aira's mouth worked, her breath dragging in wet and shallow, and the sound of it came to him from a great distance, as if the world had left him alone with the sight of her. Her sword lay where it had fallen, close enough for her to reach, but her fingers never moved toward it. Veltheta straightened, pulling back from Kai as though he ceased to exist, her attention fixed entirely on Aira, drinking in every shuddering breath and tremor of pain. Sickeningly, she looked radiant with satisfaction. "Come on, you coward," Kai thought. "Do something." Kai's fingers tightened around the Kris'thal until his knuckles went white. His arm shook with the effort. The command left his mind and died somewhere on the way to his legs, again and again, and each failure caused his frustration to flare. He lay there while the world narrowed to the ragged pull of Aira's breathing and the slow crawl of her blood across the broken floor. "Oh, look what you made us do." She circled Aira like a predator savoring wounded prey. "Bleeding out on your knees. Pathetic. It didn't have to be this way, you know." Aira swayed, fighting to stay upright as her strength ran out through her fingers. Her free hand pressed hard against her side, slick to the wrist. The color was draining from her, skin gone gray, lips bloodless, until nothing of her seemed alive except her eyes, lavender and burning still. "Better." Aira's voice came out broken but unrepentant. "Better to bleed for something and die." She dragged a shuddering breath. "Than to rot in your shadow." Nycurus's voice cut in, urgent. "Den Mother, we need to go. The Umble dream is completely left open." "I know," Veltheta snapped. Their words reached Kai like sounds through water, shapes without meaning. Heat had begun to climb through the cold in him, gathering behind his sternum until his chest felt too small to hold it. His teeth ached from clenching. "Shall we take the Kris'thal?" Veltheta's cold gaze turned to Nycurus, then to him. The dismissal in her eyes was clear, as though he and the relic were an afterthought already fading from her attention. "I have no need of it." She gestured at the shards littering the chamber. "The Vaz Chrism Zelith is destroyed." She flicked her wrist. The Kris'thal wrenched itself from Kai's grip, tearing loose from the palm it had seared itself to, and pain flared across his fingertips as the blade sailed out over the balcony, past the balustrade, and down into the dark of Evergloom Bay. His fingers held the shape of the grip a moment longer, curled around nothing. Kai lunged. He scrambled upright, reaching after it, desperate to catch it or stop it or call it back, though some small part of him knew there was nothing left to reach for. His body moved anyway, but it was met with another force. Nycurus slammed into him. Her shoulder caught him as he leapt and drove him down, and the back of his skull met stone hard enough to whiten his vision. He rolled and got an elbow under himself, but her boot found his ribs before he could rise. The air burst out of him. He clawed at the floor, wheezing, still dragging himself toward the open air where the dagger had gone. She hauled him up by the collar and hurled him backward. He skidded across broken stone, and when he called on his legs this time, they answered with nothing but a tremor. She stood over him, blood still streaming from her broken nose, and smiled. "Shall I kill the boy?" Kai's empty hands balled into fists. He wanted her to try. Veltheta smirked, tilting her head as if tasting the air. No, Nycurus. The pain of this moment is too rich. Let him watch his sister's blood drain out on the floor of this dead tower. It's the sweetest pain I can offer them both, for destroying nearly 300 cycles of work, and making us toil for 300 more. Wait. What? Sister? He barely marked the witch's turning away, abandoning her to die. The rage was still in him, but the question had stunned him, washing over his emotions like cold water. His mind refused it. Nia was dead. She was 11 cycles old when the Voidkin killed her, and he'd mourned her his whole life. He told Era as much beside the campfire, and she had asked who Nia was to him. Carefully. She'd asked carefully. The whole journey turned over and showed him its other face. The fury when she had cursed Velthera in the Old Tongue, a hatred too old and too personal for any defector. The way she'd thrown herself between him and death again and again, past all reason, past all doubt. "You're like a sister to me," he'd told her on the sands, and she went quiet then and thanked him for his trust, even though she knew he knew that she was still hiding something, and that something was their bond as siblings. Nia, he whispered. She barely stirred. Her eyelashes fluttered and her lips pursed tight. She was conscious. He wasn't sure if she was avoiding answering because of the pain, or because she was avoiding acknowledging the name. "Nia," he said again, louder this time. "I'm here, Kai," she whispered, wincing. "Why didn't you tell me?" There was no answer. Kai pressed his hands against her wound, trying to stem the bleeding, but the warmth beneath his palms was fading too fast. His thoughts scattered every time he reached for one. "Think! Come on! Think!" Kai dipped his fingers into the dust at his side. "Shonisfus, Jawizen, Uistar," he said. A faint glow flickered beneath his hands. He held them over her wound, and the bleeding slowed, the flesh drawing closed as the last of his strength went out through his palms. It wasn't enough. She still trembled, her skin cold, her breathing shallow. "Kai," she said weakly. He clenched his jaw. He wanted to shout at her and demand how she could have kept this from him through every league of the journey. Now wasn't the time, though. None of it would matter if she bled out on this floor. Why? He couldn't help but ask a second time. "I tried to. Scared." Her eyes were hazy with pain. "We can talk about this later. If we survive." Down the corridor came a familiar sound. Era tensed. She tried to push herself up, but her strength gave out the moment she lifted her shoulders. She collapsed back with a frustrated curse, her fingers twitching toward her sword, but unable to close around the hilt. "It's up to you." She slid the blade closer to him. His stomach dropped. "I don't know how to use your sword." Era winced. "I need you to try. Stay light. On your feet. Remember, no Kris'thal, no return. End her." The sound grew closer. Kai picked up the sword as Velthera's cold blood dripped from the blade. He flicked it once. "It's heavy," he said. It's a good weapon. More reach than a dagger. But she has a two-hander. Then don't let her hit you with it." Morvanys halted a few paces away, her piercing gaze raking over them both. She tilted her head slightly, considering. Then, with cool indifference, "On your feet, boy." Kai gripped the short sword and forced himself to stand. His legs felt unsteady, but he lifted his chin. Morvanys moved first. She was fast, far faster than anyone in heavy plate had any right to be. The two-hander whistled through the air in a gleaming, deadly arc aimed straight for his chest. Kai twisted aside, He struck back, aiming low with a quick cut, hoping to find a gap in the armor. But Morvanys anticipated it. With a flick of her wrist, she parried. The sheer weight of her blade sent a shockwave up his shoulders. He stumbled back, cursing under his breath. She had reach, strength, and technique. This wasn't a fight that he could win head-on. He darted left, feinting a lunge before pivoting sharply, aiming for her exposed flank. This time, his blade met flesh. It was a shallow cut along her thigh. If the pain registered, Morvanys certainly didn't show it. Her sword came down in a brutal, crushing strike. He raised his blade instinctively, but the force behind the blow sent him staggering. He fought to keep his balance, but Morvanys pressed forward, relentless. She swung again. This time, Kai wasn't fast enough. The world blurred as the flat of the blade slammed into his ribs, knocking the wind from his lungs. He hit the ground hard, gasping, and vision swimming. Morvanys stood over him, as if she already decided the fight was over. She lifted her weapon over her head for the killing blow, and then, suddenly, she jerked forward with a gasp. If Kai hadn't been watching, he would have missed it entirely. A searing bolt of Prismir tore through her breastplate. Her fingers twitched around the hilt of her weapon, trying to tighten their grip, but the strength was already draining from her. Her eyes found Kai's, and in them were shock and surprise. She sank to her knees before him. "No blade shall cut thy thread," Morvanys rasped, as if repeating some old poem, grasping at a final revelation. A weak, bitter laugh escaped her lips, tinged with something almost like acceptance. No blade. I see it now. Then she buckled forward. The two-hander slipped from her grasp, clattering against the stone as she crumpled to the ground. Kai barely had time to register what had happened before another set of heavy footsteps echoed from the stairwell. Korik stood at the entrance of the rotunda, his cannon still humming as it spooled down. Smoke curled lazily from the barrel. He spat the remains of chaw onto the ground. "Not bad, kid. Good form." He jerked his chin at Morvanys' corpse. "But that wasn't a fight you were ever gonna win on your own now, was it? Bloody suicide, that." Kai barely heard him. His breath was still heavy in his own ears. He turned, stumbling back toward Aira. "Aira's dying," he shouted. Korik immediately dropped the cannon. He crossed the ruined chamber in long strides, dropping to one knee beside Aira. His fingers pressed against her pulse, then skimmed over the wound with a practiced touch. "Korik," Aira said, wincing. "I'm not gonna make it." Easy. "You'll live, love," Korik said, but the wound's deep, still bleeding inside. I need to see this through." Korik shook his head. "Nonsense. You're in rough shape. Don't be a bloody hero." "Shut up and patch me up." Korik glanced at Kai. "You did all right for the first go, kid. You stopped the worst of it." He pulled a pouch from his belt, waving to get Kai back a step. "Now let me do a proper mending before she bleeds out on us, yeah?" He backed away, giving Korik room to work. "My sister," he thought over and over. Words caught in his throat as Korik's hands glowed faintly over Aira's wound. Kai clenched his fists. "Why? Why didn't you tell me? You had so many opportunities." Her breath was shallow. I meant to, so many times. But I was afraid. Afraid you'd hate me. Afraid you wouldn't believe me." Kai shook his head. "I spent my whole life thinking you were gone, Nia. You're my sister. I love you. I miss you. Mother does too. Why would I hate you now?" "I know. I'm sorry." Her eyelids fluttered as she struggled to remain conscious. She shifted against the slick pool of blood. "Oi, wait." Korik's hands stilled mid-gesture. His sharp gaze flicked between them, brow furrowed. Did you just call
Nia. I am Nia. Or was.
Korik stared at her, dumbfounded. The old man ran a hand over his beard and sat back on his heels. Well, I'll be damned.
Kai,
Era murmured. Yeah?
I want you to keep calling me Era. Nia, that part of me, she's not me anymore.
What? Of course she is, Kai replied quickly.
No, Kai.
Her voice was barely a whisper, but there was real steel beneath it.
I wasn't lying when I said I was a monster. I can't be Nia again. She died back there in the dark.
She swallowed thickly.
You're the only piece of her I never had left.
His mind rebelled against the thought that she had truly let go of the identity and the person that he had spent his whole life mourning. How could she just choose to stop being Nia? But then, hadn't she already? Hadn't she lived a life he would never understand? I'll never let you go, he said quietly. I carried you with me. Every day. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I couldn't save you that churn. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough. Era gave a tired smile.
Stop letting her ghost invade your dreams. I am what I am. For what it's worth, it worked out. I hope that one day you'll let her rest and let go of what guilt you have about feeling so powerless.
Kai gave a small, final nod. Era, he said. I gotta get her out of here, Korik said. She'll die if I don't. Yeah, take her somewhere safe. I'll deal with the Fisher.
Kai, don't bother.
Era's voice was weaker now, strained, but it still carried urgency.
We've lost. The Kris'thal is gone.
Korik snapped to Kai, face setting into a grimace. What the bloody void happened to it?
Veltheta took it.
Kai lowered his head.
She tossed it into the sea.
Voids. You'll be pissing in the wind out there without it. Kai shook his head. I'll find a way. Korik let out a snort.
Bloody hell.
You're stubborn.
Don't be like father,
Era said.
Veltheta's dangerous.
Kai froze for the briefest moment. Then, pursing his lips, he gestured toward Korik. Like I told him, I'm nothing like him. Korik grunted. You sure about that? Kai watched Era study his face, searching. For doubt, maybe? For hesitation? But whatever she was looking for, she didn't look like she found it. With a pained breath, she pointed to her short sword resting near Morvanys' crumpled body.
Take it with you.
Era, you saw me with Morvanys. I'm no swordsman.
You don't need to be. The enchantments are strong.
He sighed. I'll do my best. Kai stepped over and wrapped his hand around the hilt.
Come back in one piece for Mother.
She coughed, and a little bit of blood splattered onto her lips.
At least one of us should live.
Steady, love. Easy. Korik placed a hand on her forehead. Kai held up his chin. By the time this veil is through, the dawn will be shining on your face, Era. I know it.
I'd like that.
Easy. Korik settled her, then cleared his throat. Kai, right then. Raven and I cleared the cloisters. I sent out to mop up any bloody buggers still crawling around down there. You shouldn't have any trouble reaching the docks at the base of the cliff. The boats are moored and waiting. Grab one and get going. Kai gave a sharp nod.
Until the night lifts, Korik.
He returned the nod. His expression was grim,
but beneath it, Kai could see how it was filled with pride.
Lift the knight, Kai. Finish the claim.
And with that, they parted ways. The boat glided forward, and Kai felt the strange stillness of the water slip past beneath him. Kai had grown used to the low vibration of Prismir in everything, in stone and soil and living wood, but beneath the hull, his senses only found a silence where that hum should be. His fingers traced the enchantments cast into the hull. They were simple propulsion glyphs Korik had taught him that aided the fisherfolk. They worked their magic only because they sat above the waterline. Below, in the depths, Prismir went quiet. Water muted its conjuring somehow, as if the sea was an even older power that wanted nothing to do with woven magic. It meant Velthera would have a harder time tracking him here. Myr'ides had told him the far sense often died at the water's edge. It also meant the best way to evade a witch was to throw oneself into, of all things, water. He'd learned that firsthand, though it was Era and not Kai who had done the throwing. The night they had escaped the Black Sentinel the first time. Out here on the bay, he was truly alone. If the boat sprang a leak, nothing but grit and luck would pull him through. The thought of sinking rose and passed. He let the sway of the hull settle him and kept his eyes forward, fixed on the Nexus. It churned above the island like a storm with no end. A massive spiral of Prismir pulsed and writhed, as though it longed to break free. Each time he dared look at it, the sheer scale made his stomach drop. I've feared this enough, he thought. How am I winning this? He took stock of his situation. The Kris'thal was gone, hurled into the abyss by Velthera's spite and lost to the deep, possibly forever. Yet its echo lingered in his blood. It was faint. That connection to his Elir might be enough. It had to be. Era's blade rested across his knees. Strongly enchanted, she said. And she wasn't exaggerating. He ran his fingers along the flat, tracing magic woven deep into the steel. The edge was sharp and resilient, but it wasn't Persilium. It wouldn't channel the golden divine fire the way the Kris'thal had, and it wouldn't help him when the time came to close the fissure. So, what would? He turned to his wards next. The sigils he had laid over his body earlier were still there, though their strength had weakened. He traced them again with dust and whispered words of renewal. The glow brightened, settling back into his skin and leathers. He flexed his fingers to test the strength boon on his arm. The enchantment hummed beneath the surface of his skin. The clarity boon, too. His thoughts stayed sharp, despite the exhaustion pulling at him. Good. With a touch of luck, they'd all hold together through what's to come. His own pouch came up nearly empty. Then he pulled out Era's, the one she'd pressed into his hand before Korik carried her away. It was heavier than his, and well-stocked. Between the two, he had enough dust for a symphony of Prismir and chaos. If he held an advantage anywhere, it lay in his command of the Old Tongue and the incantations carried in his mind. The pouch was Era's, he repeated to himself over and over. And it was Nia's. His mind kept tripping between the two names, the way a boot catches a root. 12 cycles he'd mourned her. She'd been standing beside him for the last of them, close enough to touch, and held her tongue. Now her blood was drying on his sleeves, and her dust sat in his lap. Dust that would see him through the night. If he meant to come off that island alive, his mind needed to be still. So he turned inward one last time. He steadied his breathing and drew Prismir into himself the way Myr'ides had taught him, letting it flow through his Elir without forcing it. The energy had nowhere to go, no Kris'thal to focus it, but enough of it responded anyway, pooling across his body, ready to be shaped when needed.